Which
we'll start. It doesn't matter. On the first sheet, Hakdamat Rav Zatzal Shir HaShirim, we is the whole introduction, and last week we did the second paragraph, and we talked about how an artist has to bring out, right, that which is in his neshama, right, and bring it out into the world. And it was for all different types of artists in all sorts of different ways, right? So, start on the first line of the second paragraph. L'hotzia lapoel kol hamusagim haruchanim hamutba'im ba'omek nefesh ha'enoshit. He has to bring out everything that's, in the human soul. All right. Now we're going to get back to that, but first I want to do the next two paragraphs, which are going to limit this in a certain way. Mubhan hadvar, it is understood. By the way, whenever I see something like this in Rav Kook, I am reminded of the Hasidic phrase ki yadua. And the Hasidic phrase ki yadua, as Eli Wiesel says, means that no one knows what he's talking about when the Rebbe says ki yadua. So to a certain extent, when I see, not as much, but when I see Mubhan HaDavar, it means it wouldn't be understood to me if the Rav didn't just say it, isn't about to say it. Shiraket ottam haocרות שבהפתחם מבסמים הם את אוויר המציאות. There's a typo there, sorry. It is only those storehouses.
What's the
מבסמים should be with the sin.
Since interchangeable.
That it's through opening them, they perfume the world of existence. Tov Vifa Liftach. It is good and beautiful to open them. And Mikol Dibur v'diבור shiatza mipi הקדוש ברוך הוא נתמלא כל העולם כולו בשמים. Gemara in Shabbos says, from each and every word of HaKadosh Baruch Hu that comes out into the world, it fills the entire world with spices, with good sense. All right? Emnam, but otam הדברים הגנוזים שקבורתם היא בעורם. There are those things that are hidden within the soul, that burying them is their destruction. Lehem מתקנת היתד שעל אזינינו לחפר ולכסות. It is for them that the trowel, shovel, that is in our, this is not ear. Ozan, Azan, is, in modern Hebrew, it's the ammunition pack on the belt of a soldier. It's what you keep your weapons of war in.
What happens is, I perceive that he's referring to the pasuk in Kitetz.
Yeah, we're going to get to that. We're going to get to that.
The aleph is really a prosthetic aleph.
Right. We're going to get to that.
It's really Azinecha is really Zion, clay Zion.
Right, but it's this is the place where you keep them, right? Lachpor velechsot. We have this with our weapons of war. We have to have also the shovel to dig and to cover things up with. And as I said, we'll get into this more. ואוי לו למי שמשתמש ביתדו לפולו הופכית. And woe is to the person who uses his shovel for the reverse, right? Laman harbot be'esha, in order to increase rat in the world. There are, listen, unfortunately we do have people that work very, with great hasmada to bring out lashon hara, rechilus, and so on and so forth, right? What's the famous thing? It's not lashon hara, it's true. Right? The definition of lashon hara is that which is true. Rechilus is that which is not true. So, listen, if you're talking about something like the National Enquirer, I doubt you could find a true word in the entire thing, right?
Still exists?
Oh, no.
The long shopping lines in Israel, you could read the whole Enquirer before you get to
before you get to checkout. I never saw a copy. So, this is in contrast to what we had last week to a certain extent. That last week we were saying the artist has to bring everything out, right? And he said, Kol zman, as long as, this is in the second paragraph, Shachaser gam sirtut echad hagenuz ba'omek nefesh, as long as there's even one mark that's hidden in the depths of his soul, shelo yetza el apol, he didn't bring it out into his work. Od yesh chova alav avodas omanut lahotzio. So too, there is the obligation on the artist to bring that out, right? So it would seem from paragraph 2 of the introduction to Shir HaShirim that everything has to be exposed, right? But here in paragraph 3, the Rav is limiting that, right? Kook is limiting it. He says, "Mubhan hadvar shirak es osam haocרות." It is understood that only those treasuries שבהפתחם מבסמים הם את אויר המציאות, that through it makes pleasant the air of reality. Tov vife לפתח. It is good to open these things, right? That there are within a person things that improve the world, right? These create tikkun olam, right? We know that the tikkun olam, making better the world, is a very great thing. However, we have in Shir HaShirim, L'chayav ka'arugos abosam, this is the third paragraph in the בשמים section. L'chayav ka'arugos abosam migdalos merkachim. Right, the jaw is like the aruga is a little piece of ground that's planted with spices that are grown for the chemists, the pharmacists, right? And the Rav brought the drash and the Gemara on this. Kol dibur vediבור shiyatzeh mipi HaKadosh Baruch Hu, nitmalא kol olam kulo בשמים. With every word that HaKadosh Baruch Hu brings into the world, right? The world is filled with spices, right? When spices are present, right? You can smell them a significant distance away. Gilroy in Northern California calls itself the garlic capital of the world. All right? And people, they have garlic festivals at harvest time and so on. And you can be 20 miles away and smell the garlic.
Gilroy, you can smell it from 20 miles away.
Right. So there are these things that make our world better. And what? Shum shum.
Shum shum.
And we have to work to open these, let us say, all the aspects that are related to the Yetzer Tov in the person have to be brought out and used. We can't try and bury them. Right? That's what he's saying. But there are Dvarim Hagnuzim Shekvuratam hi Bi'uram. There are things that we are supposed to hide in the neshama, aspects of the Yetzer Hara, right? We all, everyone has a Yetzer Hara. And I'll tell you an interesting, I saw an interesting report that shows how the internet can have a negative effect on teenagers. It was dealing with how parents should deal with their teenagers looking at pornography on the internet, right? And we can say that these things, without going into any details at all, are aspects of the Yetzer Hara. I don't think anyone...
Really? Maybe they're doing it for educational purposes.
Yeah, but one of the things, as soon as they started discovering this, that they, studying this, they discovered is that teenagers seem to look at violent sex, teenage boys at least seem to look at violent sex more than anything else, which clearly is not healthy in any way, shape, or form.
Yes.
But it then causes it to develop in their systems. And what can parents do, right? And so, not wanting to go into it here, but these are things that we can certainly say are that Zim Shekvuratam hi Bi'uram, right? That hiding them and not allowing these things to ever come out and having them destroyed this way is certainly for the betterment of the world. You would not say that the artist, well, no, nor let us say no normal person would say, no healthy normal person, healthy, not talking about physical health, mental health, the person would say that it is good for these things to be brought out into the world, right? I mean, like, this is, so even though there is a great importance of revealing all the good aspects that the person has, right? There are still these things that should be buried in their place. The things that should not be uncovered and revealed, right? And covering them, right, will fill up the world with a better smell, right? If you think about it, well, we'll get to this in a minute. Ottam advarim hagnuzim shekvuratam hi bi'uram. Those things that are hidden, that burying them in the person is their destruction, like bir chametz, we're supposed to completely and totally get rid of it. Lehem mitkenet hietd sha'al azineinu lachpor lechasot. This is what the yeted, the shovel or the trowel among our weapons of war is for covering up. There is a special mitzvah, right, in the Torah, where it said, V'yeted tiyeh lecha al aznecha. I have heard Balei Kriya read it, oznecha.
Really?
Yes.
You just killed Ruby.
My goodness.
Yes, I have.
Which parak? Okay.
Well, it's on the sheet.
I didn't look. It's wait.
V'haya b'shivtecha chutz v'farta ba, and you will, when you go out, you will cover it up. V'shavta, and you turn v'chisita es tzeasacha, and you cover up that which came out. Right? There is a necessity, right, of not leaving obnoxious things lying on the street, right?
What do you mean? Dogs poop on that's not good. The dog doesn't have a shovel.
The owner, right there, all over Yerushalayim, they say, "Tiye ben adan t'nakei acharav," right?
I haven't seen it.
So these, and why is this so important? Have in the next pasuk, Ki Hashem Elokecha mitchalech b'kerev machanecha, because the Lord your God walks in the midst of your camp. Machane Yisrael, the camp of Israel. Now, this is both talking about a military camp and
The camp in the desert.
the camp in the desert, but also just Klal Yisrael, wherever Klal Yisrael is, has a special sanctity to it. Hashem Elokecha, the Lord your God is here. He's walking among you, right? And, if he's walking here, we have to keep the place clean and nice, without garbage thrown all over the place. I remember Rabbanit Druckman. She loved Eretz Yisrael. An incredible love for Eretz Yisrael. And she went hiking, different groups, all the time throughout Eretz Yisrael. And she would pick up litter all over the place. And you know how much litter there is in there? Israelis are really good at littering. And one of her favorite sayings is, Anashim ohavim lelachlech et ha'eretz hayafa shelanu. People want to make dirty our beautiful land. And when my daughter was in Midrashah, whenever they would have their tiyulim b'shatach, their various trips to various places near Israel, she would tell the girls not to litter, because the rabbinate always came with them and she would clean it all up. And of course, as soon as they saw that she was cleaning it up, they wouldn't leave litter around, because, that's not appropriate. But the idea of that we have to show the kavod HaShechina, the honor to the Shechina that is accompanying us wherever we go, right? Therefore, right, the mitzvah of the Torah is you don't have a latrine in the middle of the camp. You go out of the camp, you dig a hole, and you cover it up when you're done, right? As the Ramban says, Shaloye hakol mufkar k'machane hagoyim, that everything shouldn't be hefker. I don't have a good translation of hefker. Without rules or regulations, here is what it means. It's not saying ownerless here, right? It's completely uncontrolled, like the army camps of the non-Jews, right?
There's a term for it. Blank country, yes.
Just like the military camp of Israel, we are commanded on its sanctity, right? So too, we have to worry about the sanctity of the spiritual and cultural camp of Israel, or of the state of Israel, the Jewish people of Israel, right? These are things that we should be concerned with. Therefore, even though the craftsman is supposed to reveal, let us say, everything that is good, so too, he is supposed to cover up, seal those things that are unsightly, right? And destroy them, right? There's actually, it's famous in the West as the three monkeys: hear no evil, see no evil, speak no evil, right? In China, it's actually, there's a fourth one, which is think no evil. All right? And if you're speaking evil, you're certainly going to be thinking evil. Not thinking about bad things is a very high madrega. But if you don't see it, you refuse to allow you to see it, you don't listen to it, you don't watch it, it's much easier to get it, work it completely out of your system. Rav Tzvi Yehuda, several famous stories, almost all identical. A reporter wanted to get him to comment on something, and he didn't hear him. He had trained himself that if someone spoke lashon hara or rechilus, it didn't register. Right? It's not there. This is an idea. V'yeted tiye lecha al aznecha, and that the shovel has to be part of your tziyud, part of your equipment, right? Every Jewish soldier, every Israeli soldier is required to keep in his pack, right, this shovel to cover what has to be covered in warfare. The Gemara learns an interesting drasha from this. My dichsiv, what does it say? V'yeted tiyelecha al aznecha, that the azanecha, that the shovel will be part of your kit, right? Shim yishma adam davar she'eno hagun.
It's not really kit. Azinecha. It's really the military, the weaponry.
Yeah. Al tikre azanecha ella al oznecha. Don't read. I'm using this in the English term, kit. The right, the stuff the soldier has to carry with him. Right? He said, don't read. I don't have a better word. Maybe there is one. I don't know. Don't read your kit, but your ear. Shim yishma adar davar she'eno hagun. If the person hears something that isn't fit, right? Yaniach etzba ba'oznav. He should put his finger. But what it means is to fold up this little thing here, so you can't hear what's going on.
Actually, it's this finger.
That's right, but use it to.
I'm saying etzba is this finger, pointer.
The pointer. So, just like the Gemara is saying, just like we cover up the physical waste in warfare, so too we should cover up all the spiritual things that will have a negative effect on us. I remember hearing a story more than 40 years ago about yeshiva bacher walking in the Catskills, and an old European Rav stops him and says, "Where are you going?" He says, "I'm going to this camp, walking down from my camp to this camp to visit." And he says, "I do not think that is good for your spiritual development to go there." Yeah, okay, so the guy continues on his way. A younger American rabbi sees this, and he goes up to the bacher and he says, "What did the Rav tell you?" And he said, "It's not good for my spiritual development to go in this way." He said, "That's not what he told you. He told you to turn around and get your butt out of here." Right? You have to sometimes speak in the appropriate language for the audience to hear. But if you are careful with what you allow to come into your spiritual system, right, then I think it is natural for a person to speak in a more refined way, right? It's part of the natural development and growth of that. There are things that we have to hide, right? That we cannot uncover. And the Rav says at the end of the second paragraph, "Oy lemi shemishtamesh biyehedo lefula hofchit, Woe is to the person who uses his shovel for the opposite works. Leman harbot be'isha, in order to increase wrath. Listen, I can use my intellect to uncover things in the Torah, right? Mm-hmm. Or I can use my intellect to uncover scandal. Now, I will certainly be more famous and more wealthy if I use my intellect to uncover scandal and write about it all the time, right? This is certainly something that's true. However, right, there's not much that I can take with this into the world to come. There's a story with Asher Enschel Rothschild, the founder of the Rothschild dynasty, that someone asked him how much he was worth. And he looked in the book and he gave an amount. And the guy said, "What are you talking about? You're worth much, much more than that." He says, "This is my Meiser account. This is what I've given away to tzedakah. This is what I take with myself into the next world." There are ways that we should look at the world, cover up those things that we don't have. The Ritzi Yehuda was a fanatic, let us say, about not using anything but the Hebrew date. All right? On Rav Kook's 25th yard site, there was a huge Azkara in Tel Aviv where he was supposed to be the keynote speaker. Except they put on the poster the
English date,
the Christian date, not the Hebrew date, and he didn't show up. Sometimes we have no choice. I mean, if you're booking an airline ticket, you can't book it with the Hebrew date. If you're writing a check in America, you cannot use the Hebrew date. In Israel, you can. It's good too. But, this is one of those things that changes how things are done. And again, another well-known story with Rothschild, that he wanted a Sefer Torah written to fulfill the mitzvah of Kesiva Sefer Torah. So he, asked the sofer to come, and he gave him a down payment, and every month he sent him money. At the end of the year, the sofer comes with the Sefer Torah. And Rothschild asks, "How much do I owe you? How much is the, Nishar b'cheshbon?" And he says, "Well, you commissioned me in March, and you gave me so much money. In April, you gave me so much. In May," he goes through all the months. So this is how much is remaining. So Rothschild gives him the money and says, "And you can keep your Sefer Torah." And the guy's shocked. He says, "What? I don't understand." He said, "A sofer who keeps his cheshbonos in the Goyish months, his kasav is puzzle for me." Right? The sofer doesn't have to keep accounts in the Christian months. He can keep it in the Jewish months. It's not going to affect him, right? Certain time. I mean, Rav Drickman was also extremely makpid, and in his family, if you give someone the Goyish month on something, they may not know when it is. Chana was in Yerushalayim. She met two of the Lapids, two of Rav Drickman's grandsons, when I was chutzarts, and they asked when I was coming back, and she said at the end of January. And one looked at the other and says, "When is that?" And he goes, "I think it's sometime in Shvat."
You said Shvat, not Tishrei?
Well, no, I'm just saying, but so I once had a discussion. I said, normally I write Hebrew dates on things, but when I'm dealing with candidates for conversion, I'm giving them a date for the next meeting, right? All sorts of things. And the States, when you don't have a choice, you don't have a choice. But, it's certainly true that, and I did this when I was at B'nai David, the seat announcements only had the Hebrew date on them.
The seat announcement?
Yeah, we had seat announcements of what's going on, when Mincha is, and the Dvar Torah, and...
Okay.
It's interesting how birthdays, people only know the loazi date, but yahrzeit, Everybody knows Hebrew days. That's,
Yeah, they should, birthdays, they should also do
I know,
one
I
with the
agree.
Hebrew date. It's not,
but they always make people.
No. Our anniversary is Yud Bet Tishrei.
For the Sulam.
Is it Tishrei or Tishri?
You keep doing that, your Yurtz, that'll be
but
Tomorrow.
the ninth of the year.
what Rav Kook is stressing is that only those things that are מבסמים, that make the world sweeter and better, should we be bringing out. And the things that don't work so well in the world, we should work to cover up.